So exactly that, the fourth revolution, the technology of tomorrow, and as the introduction said, there's a lot of buzzwords around it, and so my mission, at least with this session this morning, is, even though I come from a technology company, was to try and not to get too hung up on buzzwords and talk a little bit about how we see these technologies actually impacting us and what we should be considering from a people and HR perspective. I guess the notion of digital transformation that we hear all the time, and everyone says, oh, we need to do digital transformation, but the understanding or the view on what that might be to my company, it's interesting to have conversation with customers about. So I have a lot of conversation with customers on what that means to them, to first understand how they envision their company of tomorrow. If they were to start building it today, how would they build it different with what we're able to do today? And it's not about just trying to digitize the process that we have, because you can say there's not much transformation in that. Actually, that belongs in the third revolution, which is about automation. So the fourth revolution is about transcending that and trying to do more in a different way. And can we as employees, as HR practitioners, as companies, as organizations, can we imagine what we would want to do tomorrow if we built our company today and did not have our legacy? And I think that's what we want to kind of get to when we try and look at the emerging technologies that are offered by what we have available now as part of this fourth revolution. So a little intro, just a little video to get us started. Okay, so there's never been a greater time for a promise or greater peril. Yes, there are promises of a lot of things we can achieve, but at the same time, we also know the potential impact of all the horror stories that might scare us, right? So how do we find out what we can do with the technology? How do we manage it so it doesn't take over? Everyone has watched all the sci-fi movies of what AI can do in there, but it's our task, it's our mission to figure out how do we employ it to build our vision of a better world tomorrow. And that's really where it is. So I think we already had a little bit of introduction to this, right? But you can say when I started my work, I came to Asia 18 years ago working for a Danish multinational, and my job was pretty much around Industry 3.0. It was about deploying solutions and deploying technologies in all the sister companies and associate companies around the world to be more efficient, to drive productivity, to automate certain things and make a life from a corporation's perspective, a headquarter perspective, easier. Right, so you can say I kind of grew up in that area of what it brought to the table. And then we are coming to Industry 4.0, and we also talk about automation. Yes, we do, but we talk about it in a different way. The Industry 3.0 was a very factory-oriented mindset. It was about mechanics. We already, we've been good from Industry 1.0 to 2.0, bringing on factories, assembly lines, and how can we do that better? How does computers help us to automate these things, to again get factories to run faster? Industry 4.0 is not about doing that better one more time. Well, to some extent it is about automation, but it's actually bringing the focus away from trying to do things the same way to find and discover new ways of what is required from industries and how technology can help us reshape this, right? So Industry 3.0, we were automating things. Now we really want to reshape what we can do, right? So it's a value shift. So, and it's triggered by everyone trying to find out what's the new story they want to write for the industry they're in, the company they're in. I mean, we work with all industries in Oracle, from, as you know, from banking, insurance, to manufacturing, you name it, we're there in distribution. And everyone has their own areas of focus on what we can work. So it's an enabler for new business models, and that is what we want to focus on. Right? So there's a futurist called Gerd who was basically say the defining factor is that technology will change more in the next 20 years than it has in the past 300 years, right? Whether we are talking about what he classifies as mega shifts, we have, datafication, robotization, automation, and cognification. Cognification, interesting term. There's a level of cognification when we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is all about automating things that already has a fixed way based on policies and procedures of dealing with things, but can do it faster, more efficiently, and offer better solutions than can be done necessarily by humans. And then there is the next generation of cognification, where we're talking about the human sort of integration, the merge between human and technology that is already coming in terms of contact lenses that is able to basically, read. I mean, take Google glasses, put them into contact lenses, but also do body analysis of our blood into the healthcare industry. All the devices that are collecting information about us, bringing that in, that will actually help predict what issues we might be facing in there. But leave that aside. Cognification into processes and industries is where we will have an interesting impact, and where it will actually help us get away from things that are very simple to do, but just take a lot of effort. The factories was the first step in terms of it's trivial work. Nobody enjoys going there, but it's a job. You earn it on a salary, and it is needed to where we were in that point in time. Industry 4.0, it's a revolution because we now have access to technology at a maturity that can bring us a step further in areas where we were not able to think or produce these steps before. Jobs that will disappear in the next 20 years, plus minus, different markets, different things. But some of these things we already see how that's going to take shape, right? So whether we are talking about taxis, drivers, farming, robotics, automation, how that's going to bring in cashiers in supermarkets. We already have prototypes running. Amazon Go, where you walk in, there's nobody working in there. There might be a supervisor, but other than that, the store will monitor from where you walk in, you pick up your basket, whatever you put in, it will scan what you pick up, or whether you put it back, and you scan out, and you will be charged. And you can say, is there a business model for this? Well, the stores can be open 24/7 because AI cashiers don't really cost anything. I mean, they don't need to sleep, they don't need to eat, so they actually can just keep on running, right? And that's a level of service and automation that is coming from expectation as consumers, right? Travel agents. I mean, now we've already seen how the travel industry has been changed, and I'm going to talk about drivers, I'm going to talk about the travel industries, but bots and virtual assistants are also now coming to a maturity level. I just saw Google's keynote on how their AI is coming very close to passing the Turing test. And if you are not familiar with the Turing test, it means that's the point in time where an interaction, we will not be able to determine whether we talk to a human or whether this is a machine. And is that an issue? Not if deployed correctly, right? Because the advantage is, I mean, they have greater access to information than we do. So from a travel perspective, we want to consume technology in a simple way. We want to have conversations. So if you get to a travel agent in the old days, you would call them up and say, I want to go here and here, what do you have? They will have a limited set of information because these are the services that they offer. Going into bots and virtual assistants, I mean, look at the travel sites today. I mean, we can search for any kind of travel information, and today they can categorize it for us, and they can bring it in and say, these are the options that you have, this is what you can do. So the possibilities of a personalized travel itinerary, optimized on price, location, timings, anything you want, can be done all without speaking to one single person, right? Manufacturing, I know the gentleman coming after me is going to talk about manufacturing and workers of the future, so I'm not going to tap too much into that. I will let him have that. But I saw a presentation where the notion was, in the factory of the future, all you need is a man and a dog. I was like, a man and a dog. Okay, one man to supervise anything that's going on in there. But the dog was there to keep the man sane and make sure he would not tamper with any ongoing machinery, right? So that's kind of just supervising in there. Dispatchers, right? In any area where we have dispatchers, fire departments, police, hospitals, Ubers, now we have, again, AI and technology that will basically allow to do that a lot faster, a lot more efficient than the humans will do. Right, I mean, and so if you take Uber is already doing a great job, and here in Southeast Asia, one of our customers is Grab, that just took out some of the markets from Uber there. They're doing a great job. They already have dispatchers, and we can go in, and it's a consumer service. We want to make sure we have quick access to where we want to go, and it's an easy business model. But how is that going to impact? Well, dispatchers might be there from a customer service perspective, and that is kind of slowly getting to where we want to be. Now, all the standard services will be to some extent automated at different levels for different industries. But what we do want is companies are able to offer us more services beyond the standard stuff when things potentially go wrong, or they can go in to focus on value add stuff. So Uber that is doing very well now, Grab that is doing very well now, in their cars, they're not done yet. I mean, it's a completely new business model, but we still have drivers. These drivers will also disappear, right? We talked about that up there, drivers in taxis and trucks. So in the future, a service like Grab and Uber might be completely autonomous. We don't need a lot of people in there, except to either come up with a new service model that enriches the experience beyond the standard point A to B, and what else can be offered. Right. So I'm not going to cover them all, but they're very viable business models in there. So what does that mean? Are we all going to kind of be out of a job at some point in time, right? So Steve Jobs said, you need to have a burning idea on how you can come up with something new to solve a problem, to make life more enjoyable. So Steve Jobs was very much a believer in, you need to create an experience. Right? So another interesting speaker we have is, there's a guy called Simon Sinek that says that the whole purpose of the human being starts with why. And I think when you see industries taking shape now, it's about, why do I want to work for this company? It's not so much I need to work for this company, but they create a reason for why you want to work for them, right? And that is exactly what has happened initially in these companies, like I said, with Uber, Airbnb. They're redefining the business industries, Amazon Go, and the education industry. The education industry is yet another industry that's going to be heavily revolutionized, not just because everyone is challenging the curriculum, but also because of the different learning tools and mechanisms that we have. And I'll come back to that. So there's a lot of disruption happening, but it's all about looking to find the advantages of what can be offered. If we take for the education industry, I saw a video session from a conference on how someone from the third grade was able to come up with something revolutionary in the farming industry, on how you could actually get more farming out of seeds by perforating the seed, and this kid hadn't really gone to university. There's not a third grader. That was he's a bit later. But he hadn't gone to university. But he'd seen enough information, enough videos around that, and anything that was come up on YouTube to have enough understanding of how things work together, and started a hypothesis on maybe there's something to this science that can actually help improve the farming environment. So it tells us the learning channels today is all about easy consumption, easy access, and different ways. So YouTube is offering access to information and learning information that we didn't have before. AI and machine learning is going to help shape this up in a much more personalized way, because again, we are still humans. We learn things better individually. You know, some are better at reading it at their own pace. The majority is going towards consuming videos. And so when we try to understand where we are having an impact, if we suddenly interact with learning assistants that figure out the times that we actually understand something faster, did they apply a certain learning mechanism to us? Was it a different way that they did it? Was it a video segment? Was it a very interactive segment? Was there more quizzes involved? Because again, it's a very personal thing. So to the initial point that came in, that was mentioned in the introduction, and I actually like that, because that's exactly where I think it's going. It's about creating a more personal experience, about creating a more human experience. It's about understanding what we need as humans and leverage the technology to enable us to learn better. The traditional education system that we've all grown up in, you know, there's a fixed curriculum, there's a fixed way of learning. Some of us are very good at picking it up that way, but there are people that struggled in there. And it's, most of the times, it is not due to lack of intelligence of any kind. Some people just learn things in a different way. And that is part of the beauty of what can be offered in there. So, all the industries we have today will exist, but they will be redefined based on the capabilities we have in technology to bring us to that next level. Right, so the fourth industrial revolution is very much technology driven, but it is human-centered. It's about human transformation, and it's about us disconnecting from the human limitations we had before and use technology to think of different and better ways to have a broader reach to enable growth. Because most companies, as much as we talk about efficiencies here and there, cost cutting and all that stuff, particularly in Asia and in this part of the region, it's all about enabling growth. How can I do more with less? It's not about cutting people, but it's just about how do I scale, and how do I scale fast? And yes, we have a lot of technology that can help scale, do this and do that, but it's also finding a way where we can get deployed into different roles that makes us more happy. And this is what I come into. It is not just about doing the same things with a bit of automation tools. Right? So, what skills do the generations to come need to master? And so I had this conversation with my wife. That's not her, by the way, that's our daughter. She was 10 months old 2 days ago. And we were having a conversation we wonder what the learning system, the education system would be like. How will she learn? What should she be learning in there? Like, what does it mean to be a leader, a manager? What are the most important roles and what are the most important skills? And I think that's where we are starting to get very, very close to a people aspect of what needs to come out of it, right? And this is where HR will come in and play a very strong role in the culture of all the companies of what needs to get done, right? So, the present, good forecast of the future? Well, to some extent, things are just going to move a lot faster than we thought, right? So when we talk about learning, for example, that I mentioned, the artificial intelligence, the augmented reality, the machine learning is to understand how are people responding to the training that we send out. Do people understand faster in this approach, that approach? And how do we bring that in? And the same comes into the companies.